Coming up, do you know a girl that's dating a soft boy that is sus? And who is it that is rocking the cradle with Olivia Rodrigo? We're going to talk about that and more on this full-length edition of the Depraved and Debaucherous. Welcome to D&D. This is King of Podcasts, Softbois. We'll talk about that first. The definition of a soft boy, which, I've heard the phrase several times before, but I never really realized that maybe that is a good definition of what I think of when I see certain girls, young, beautiful girls that are out there with guys that are guys you might friend zone, guys that you might not look at as your conventional alpha male type of guy because of what girls are saying they want out there, and wanting a guy who's more sensitive, that might not have been raised with those uber manly qualities, the hyper masculine qualities, what you're considered toxic these days. But then if you want a guy that's not toxic and is much more in touch with his feminine side, or much more of a sensitive, supposedly understanding type figure, just know that if you do find a soft boy, you might just find yourself with a guy who might be narcissistic or manipulative. I'm just telling you, Vice.com put a story out about this, and they talked about that the definition of a soft boy is a man who portrays himself as not like the other men. He is more alternative in how he presents himself, in his opinions, his emotional intelligence, his tastes, his interests, his philosophical beliefs, his GCSE choices, his vinyl collection, his choice of hairdresser. He's a true king of culture, and he's not inherently a bad person. This is a nice guy. It's a nice guy. And by the way, GCSE, I had to go and look this up as a general certificate of secondary education. Anyways, don't know why they put that in there, but that's what Vice wrote in here. But some soft boys are absolutely the fucking worst. Just by existing, they give all soft boys a bad name. No, I think there's just something about where if a guy's going to be tagged a soft boy, there's something wrong. And I mean, guys can be affluent or flamboyant. That's no problem with that. Or they just might be, friends with women, but maybe they're more interested in guys. Because I think it's going to be one of the other ways. Now, the metrosexual mentality was put up by millennials 20 years ago. The Ryan Seacrest types. And that's not like it was anymore. But in this story from Iona David here at Vice.com, she writes and says that the word soft boy means many things. The majority of them are completely harmless to the wider society. If he wears or ever has worn Dr. Martens, he is a soft boy. If he likes The Cure, he's a soft boy. Or Doc Martens. There we go. Dr. Martens. Doc Martens. If he likes The Cure, he's a soft boy. If he's read any part of Friedrich Nietzsche's Wikipedia page, he is a soft boy. If he quotes Daphne du Maurier at you before telling you if you sleep with him, you will actually be empowering yourself on a spiritual level and thus furthering the historical women's sexual rights movement. Okay. All right. Stop. A guy that's going to these lengths to try to impress you or to try to reach a certain level that he's doing. First of all, he's reaching. I would have to think he's reaching and trying to stretch himself out to a point to impress you above other guys, to show that he is not that other guy. Not that typical toxic masculine guy that you don't want, the alpha male. And this is because what's being said. And so you should have sex with him, but only because feminism, he is a soft boy. If we are being fluid with gender levels, then I would call myself a soft boy to write a book centered around the theme of soft boys. Is arguably the most soft boy thing a person could do. And there are distinguishable types. And she wrote a book called Is This Love or Dopamine? A deep, unofficial study of dating in the digital age. I'm going to have to go look this up. Hopefully this is on Audible. There's the wholesome soft boy. Humble, honest, pure, have good intentions. Who is that guy? What are you talking about? Wholesome. Okay. For anybody that thinks that this is actually like really is an honest depiction, I don't know who there is that's a wholesome soft boy, and show me one of them, and I'll show you that that person's not. The self-awareness is a weapon soft boy. So you might get texts that say, you're going to need a sad song when we break up in 4 years, after you realize I've been emotionally manipulating you and gaslighting you for the past 14 months of the relationship. And then I'll probably sleep with your best mate the next week, but it will be fine because you know you're the main character. Anyway, you're cute. That's a idea of the self-awareness as a weapon soft boy, which is really a narcissistic, manipulative type of view. Again, which is what she says here. Gaslighting and manipulation. You know, I've talked about on this program quite a bit lately. Then she goes on and talking about that text exchange I just read to you right now exemplifies a soft boy trend that's been growing steadily and very concerningly over the last few years. The self-aware soft boy, representing brutal honesty. Self-awareness is generally a good thing if we have self-awareness, but it means we're more aware of things that we might negatively affect others or ourselves. And that we may actively work towards not doing these things. And it all starts to go horribly wrong when soft boys start thinking that self-awareness on its own is enough to absolve them of all their evils. Guys, you can't be doing this. Don't go this route. Whoever told you this was a good idea, stop it. Like, it's not going to be honest or genuine or sincere. There is no guy. I don't believe it. And you know what? Please write me if I'm wrong, and I'm happy to read your comments on the air. But there's no way I'm thinking that a soft boy is sincere and really is not being a hypocrite. You're doing this to break the dynamic of a girl thinking that all you want to do is sleep with her. Stop thinking you have to not be otherwise. Just go with it. If you want to just try to show that you really aren't interested. And by the way, if you are being one of these soft boys and you're trying to be well groomed and articulate and cultured, if you really like all of this, then you are the wholesome soft boy. Okay. If you really believe in all that, but then I also think maybe you're not just interested in women. Maybe you really have also interest in men. You could be bisexual. You could be gay. And that's okay believing in that. Trust me. I know there are guys out there that could totally feel this way and feel like they could find an experience sexually or romantically or in a bond with a man or woman in a very similar way based on the cultural thoughts, interests, hobbies, whatever they might have. So I'm not going to just completely smash down on soft boys. I'm not doing that. I just think there's something here that I think is being done for ulterior motives. So now she continues to go on and say that when a soft boy believes he's more alternative than in his emotional intelligence than other men. Make no mistake, some soft boys generally are very emotionally aware and are nicer people because of it. Most men can clearly see that the man that is being put into this story is an arrogant tapeworm who has, in some freak mythological twist of fate, gained the ability to communicate with humans. However, for some reason, we will not see this. And the message I read just before, she says we might be thinking that the man literally explains in the message that he is an emotional manipulator. What kind of self-respecting person would ever go anywhere near him? And sometimes, she says, for whatever reason, adolescent mess or not, people find themselves lost and confused, running on low self-respect and making up any excuse to ignore the millions of red flags someone is showing. It does not mean that person deserves to be manipulated or emotionally abused. Which is why we need more women to realize, don't fall for this trap. Get out of this. Don't even be a part of it. If you have a guy that's with you now that is giving these type of traits, that is giving you these kind of sus vibes right now because he's acting like this, something's wrong. There is a biological kind of thing that's going on here. Now, and the other forms of soft boy, she says, are the gatekeeping soft boy. Gatekeep a cultural phenomenon, a musician, song, or film based on his own apparent understanding or emotional connection. And there are other ones that she puts in here. She talks about misogyny here, which is really what is the antithesis of what a soft boy doesn't want to be. He does not want to be misogynist. He does not want to be toxic. The problem is he's toxic anyway. And that's what it comes down to. So I appreciate her trying to put this together, but I still think there are many different types of soft boy, but there's too many out there. She says, stay golden, don't stress yourself out too much, and stop gatekeeping the concept of enjoying music. This is not good. By the way, her book is coming out very soon. Is This Love or Dopamine? I don't agree with any guy needing to be a soft boy. Now, you can be a soft boy, but if you are approaching women and if your ultimate goal is sex, ultimate goal is holding on to a woman and having her be with you, emotionally attached to you, girlfriend, wife, whatever it might be, and you're a soft boy, I don't think you're going to do that well. Your success rate, I don't think, can be that high. And even as friends, I think it's a tough bargain. I don't know if it can happen. And so when I read this here, I'm saying to myself, is this a good idea? I mean, there are definitely, she has pointed out a definite archetype of guy out there. There is no question about that. And she puts in here in another graphic, which I also take in the story. I know lots of people like this soft boy. I'm not going to say the name, but I feel like I'm one of the few people who really understands his music and the beauty behind it. And I've been through a lot. I think you have to have been through a lot of pain to truly feel what he's saying. So that's the gatekeeping part about being attached to an artist just for the sake of saying that, well, that's somebody that she might be totally engaged to. So you're just finding another way to get yourself a woman that will attract to you and has based on nothing about who you really are on the inside. It's a hard thing for some guys to really be themselves because we've been trained so much on how we have to go ahead and basically be like salespeople, trying to persuade and manipulate and cajole and do whatever we can to get a girl to be with us. In our teens and 20s, it was always about what can we get a girl to do for us in terms of satisfying us or getting off their pants, whatever. Listen, let's just be honest with each other. It is what it is. And girls are going to continue to think that anyway, because what happens about the guys who are soft boys that behave badly? And then they become, then they do something wrong. But then the soft boy archetype, that's supposed to excuse them, or they might be just having a lack of judgment or clarity. It can't do that either. That doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. Can't do that. So that's the story there. Now let's move along to the featured story, which is Olivia Rodrigo. Listen, she's had a last couple of years of phenomenal pop stardom. Career only back in January of 2020, right? Or what was it? 2021. Driver's License. Then the album Sour comes out in April. And she has just been on a whirlwind tour of just like this. I mean, she was already becoming well recognized and known for the whole Disney stuff that she was doing, the High School Musical series. And she was doing just fine. So it was just a matter of time before she became famous. But, I mean, who could have expected her to be as popular as she is now? She's been touring for the last, year or so. So she's been out there. She was at Glastonbury, which is this big, huge outdoor festival thing that goes on. Hundreds of thousands of people in Britain there for the summertime to go see her in concert. And she was out there talking about the Roe v. Wade and the whole thing with that. She got to go out on stage with Lily Allen and did a song together because she's a big fan. And now Olivia Rodrigo, there's been times where she's obviously been with other guys. She's been dating. She's a young, pretty girl that if there's lots of guys that would probably be soft boys that are wanting to be all around her, probably hitting her up on her DMs or trying to reach out to her on tour, whatever like that. Well, this 19-year-old pop starlet is now dating a 26-year-old. And there have been reports that they've been dating since mid-February. And Newsweek reports a story saying that the two really like each other. So before that, Olivia Rodrigo was dating a music video producer by the name of Adam Faze, and in February they split up. Do we know this is publicity or not? Probably not. This is not like she's going out with anybody of very big importance, but there are people within her circles that she is meeting with. Now, this guy named Zach Bia, he's been linked to other pop stars. He was linked to singer Madison Beer and more recently Outer Banks star Madeline Klein. And there have been a lot of people, a lot of her fans that are complaining about the fact that she is, you know, they're objecting to her relationship over the age difference. I mean, that's totally proper. That's what's going on here. And there are people that are writing back and saying about her that dating someone you couldn't even go to the bar with is crazy. Her age still in the teens, like, no way. Right. She's going out with somebody that she can't even go to the bar to go drink with. I mean, barely old enough to smoke, not old enough to drink. Another person says, and me that is going to be 26 in a couple of days, the thought of me being with someone just even 2 years younger than me makes me want to throw up, let alone 19. Someone that's barely an adult. That's a Softbois, I'm sorry. That might have written that there. And another Twitter user makes the point and says that my people in Christ, this girl's dating history is quite telling. She likes them older. Y'all will say anything and she will still look for an older man. But I'm not sure what it is about this older man that's really going to stand out about her anyway that makes a difference. Which is interesting because, by the way, she wrote the album Sarah over a breakup, which is supposedly High School Musical, the musical series co-star Joshua Bassett, which originally was what his driver's license about. This is nothing new. I mean, Taylor Swift was also dating guys out there that were much older than her. John Mayer was one, and I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, Jake Gyllenhaal. So that's okay. Okay, listen, that happens. And if these guys are able to go and do that and they can get together with her, well, then why not? The only thing is, who is this Zach Bia guy in the first place that he's getting Olivia Rodrigo? I just don't know what that part is. Like, what's the story behind him? Obviously, somebody's already gone and talked about him. He's an American socialite, music executive, club promoter, and DJ. And he has a record label, Field Trip Recordings, which he co-founded. And they've signed acts such as SSG Kobe, and Slump Sixes. He's 26 years old from New York City. Okay. What's happening is that she is just catching up with guys within her circles. Listen, it's not like she's going to go out there and date, you know, there's not a whole lot of people to date in the first place. So if she has certain people within her circles that she's getting to know and she's going out with, that's who she's going to date. Like, we're not setting up Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez all over again. That's not happening here, okay? Like, I'm sure the PR people might want to do that, but that's not what's going on here, all right? That's not what's going to happen. Anyway, Bia first broke into the industry when he had a chance encounter with Fetty Wap at a nightclub on his 19th birthday. And that night, a promoter asked for his number, assuming he was part of the Fetty Wap's crew, and the rest was history. For long, he was getting $100 a week to promote the club. So yeah, rags to riches story for this guy. And because he's been out there and so popular, and by the way, he kind of has like this Jack Harlow kind of look to him, because he was very clean, fresh-faced when he was dating Madison Beer, and now he's growing a beard. He's got like a Jack Harlow type of goatee and mustache and all that going on now. And when I look at the guy, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's just kind of there. Nothing spectacular about him. He's a good-looking guy. Okay. But for her, I think it's just a matter that she's just around here. I mean, it's just, that's it. Another music executive. There was a lot of things going on where she has dated other people, but they're nothing serious. Like, that's the other thing, too. And I hope for Olivia Rodrigo's sake, she is just kind of just like, she's just enjoying the company of other guys out there. And unfortunately, these are the guys that she has right now within her own circles that she's able to meet, that are allowed to be within her circles. Okay. I mean, sure. Yeah. Fans are not going to like this, but what are you going to do? This is her life. She is an adult. And so seeing this kind of thing happen, this is nothing new. But now it's 26 to 19. Is that too much? Probably. Listen, there are going to be a lot of people that have a certain You know what? When everybody's so acceptable of various things about what people do to themselves, how they imbibe themselves, the vices, the habits, the things that people want to do to their bodies, all these different things that everybody's so worried about. Why are people so caught up on this young pop star dating who she wants to date? I think when it comes down to it, this guy, Zach Biet, would realize, listen, at 19 years old, she's still very much young, and there's still some immaturity that's going to be there. I mean, listen, she's pretty mature for her career, but still, there is something about her being 19 that she's still been removed away from. I mean, in a way, she was a child star, and now she's at this point, and you just hope that, you know, the people around her are protecting her, making sure that, you know, that at least she's being looked after for whoever that she is bringing her into her private fold. Like, that's the whole thing to kind of be worried about. At least I would think so anyway. As long as it doesn't mess up with her career. And that she's being smart about it, and that hopefully that nothing bad happens as a result. Because the one thing that would be nice is to have a pop star that continues to kind of have success and doesn't get caught up in some bad, you know, controversies. This is a controversy. This is gossip. Because this is normal tabloid gossip we always get. And for some people to get all caught up on this and say, well, we expect Olivia Rodrigo to be this precious, you know, princess type character that's never going to do anything wrong, and people are going to be satisfied with every decision she makes. We all know better. And for those that think we need to go ahead and, you know, chastise this young girl, no, not at all. And as for me, look, you know, if there is an age of consent, there's an age of consent for different guys at different ages. I would like to think that, I mean, for the most part, it would be like, okay, listen, at my age, yes, it would be creepy to go out with a girl who is 19 or 20 years old. Like, I think for me, at my age, in my 40s, I mean, the youngest I should say I would want to be with, if I wanted to try, would probably be 24, 25. Maybe 23 at the youngest. Because that's just for a guy that wants to just, you know, the idea would be, I mean, for this guy, Zach Biet, this probably just kind of just elevates himself because the attachment's there and the connections that he makes. I feel like that's really just the intention of this here anyway. And I think the other thing too is with Olivia Rodrigo, I don't think she ever wants to be perceived as being alone. That she's always going to want to find, you know, somebody to attach herself with. That's just what it looks like for me. Because she's never without somebody. She might just jump into the next guy. I don't know how serious she might be doing things with her. Well, who's going to know, right? But I'm thinking if she's just kind of going along with different guys here and they're just out and there's, you know, public displays of affection, they're out together and this and that. I mean, the one thing is just not for her to get caught up in anybody that's going to really mess up her career. That's the only thing I would hope not to have, because I think there's a whole lot of music that she's got left for her. You know, after her tour, does she get time for another album? Gets herself back in the spotlight? You know, things like that. But listen, she's a good old all-American girl. She's having the time of her life. And forget the hate. Forget the criticism. Like, who cares? That's what I tell her. I like her music, and I hope she does really well. So a couple other stories I want to bring up before we're going to wrap things up. A therapist recently wrote in Men's Health about whether it's worse to be in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath. And listen, I'm going to continue to keep talking about this because this always fascinates me so much. So clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula, she talks about this, and she talked about gradations of terrible, difficult, and painful. That narcissists and psychopaths trade in many of the same behaviors, gaslighting, manipulation, and there are differences. For the narcissist, the grandiosity is a defense. For the psychopaths, they believe their own hype. It's basically a don't mess with me or I will crush you kind of grandiosity. So yeah, psychopaths, more evil, more devious, and much more dangerous than a narcissist. The charm and the charisma exhibited by a narcissist are both a way of covering up their insecurities and getting validation. A psychopath, charm was simply a way of getting their foot in the door so they could achieve their real goals. And psychopathic relationships can be characterized by grifting behavior, parasitic behavior, or running a real financial hustle on you. So you might have somebody using false identities, aliases, or even criminal histories you aren't aware of. And psychopathic individuals are really, really good at lying. Way better than narcissists. Interesting stuff right there, but go ahead and take a look at the link if you want to look at that a little bit more. There's some other stories I have here I'm going to go and hold off to for a later date. But that's where I want to have all that coming up today here on the program. I hope you appreciate where I'm coming from here and talking about all this here because it's quite interesting. I will leave it there, and thank you for listening to another Depraved and Debaucherous. Remember to go and subscribe to the show. Look for it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please rate and review, and subscribe wherever you find podcasts. You never miss an episode. And if you want to catch it on YouTube, I got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. And I'll talk to you next time.